During an indoor renovation, two installers crowd onto one stepladder beneath a ceiling light, and the overloaded frame starts losing control. Extra weight and movement on equipment built for one can destroy the ladder's center of gravity. Stepladders rely on precise structural limits to remain upright. At a trench side lift, a crane holds a concrete slab over soft ground as the entire setup shifts toward a critical failure. Riding a suspended load creates a hidden exposure point. Machinery lifting heavy materials holds immense tension, and soft trench edges can lose support without much warning. When the suspended load loses stability, the sudden shock can break the soil's strength and pull the setup downward. Keep the trench edge clear until the load is fully grounded and stable. Heavy blocks should be guided from a distance with tag lines, not from beneath the lift path. The safest position is always outside the shadow of suspended weight. At a busy loading dock, workers stand on a truck tailgate when the platform suddenly begins to fold upward. Automated mechanical platforms carry immense closing force. When unexpected failures trigger the folding sequence, the solid steel wall can sweep upward at rapid speed. Manual force cannot resist this kind of powered movement. The tight space quickly shrinks, turning a flat standing surface into a closing mechanical gap. Once the sequence begins, the folding path can create extreme pressure against the rigid vehicle body. Powered platforms need confirmed controls, lockouts, and backup stops before anyone uses them as a work surface. In a warehouse alley, one forklift raises another toward a high window, creating a shaky tower no job should ever rely on. Stacking heavy machinery to extend reach creates a highly unstable tower. Equipment is built to stay anchored on solid ground. Lifting one vehicle with another removes that stable base and makes the entire setup depend on a narrow balance point. A slight shift in the top load can break this delicate equilibrium. Gravity then takes over quickly, sending equipment and materials downward. When the task is high, the access method must be designed for height. Use proper lifts, platforms, or scaffolding instead of stacking machines into a temporary tower. In a quiet parking lot, an extension ladder rests against a narrow light pole, making every step depend on fragile friction. Resting ladders against narrow surfaces creates a dangerous balancing act. Rails need a wide, stable surface to distribute pressure evenly. When a tiny contact point supports the full setup, even minimal movement can break the friction holding the ladder in place. Gravity then takes control, forcing the metal to slide sideways without warning. A rounded pole cannot provide the same grip as a flat, stable surface. Secure the ladder with the correct attachment system before climbing, and test both the base and top contact points. Balance should never be the only thing holding the job together. In an industrial yard, an unsecured pickup begins rolling toward a gate, turning a parked vehicle into a moving hazard. Leaving a vehicle without firmly locking the parking brake creates an unpredictable rolling event. Heavy machinery carries enough weight to overcome a slight incline very quickly. When a truck rolls freely, open doors can become solid closing points against gates, walls, or equipment. Reaching into a moving cabin places the access area directly inside the vehicle's travel path. Before stepping away, confirm the vehicle is truly secured, brakes set, wheels controlled, and movement stopped. Once a vehicle starts rolling, the safe choice is distance, not recovery. Equipment can be replaced. The path of motion must be cleared immediately. On a flatbed truck, a loose cylinder starts moving across the deck, and its weight quickly takes control. Blocking a freely rolling load creates an uncontrolled force that is almost impossible to manage by hand. Heavy cylindrical weights build sudden momentum once they start moving. Trying to stop that moving mass can overpower any stance and cause rapid loss of footing. Gravity immediately pulls the object toward the lower path, closing the space against the ground below. Rounded freight must be controlled before it moves, not after it breaks loose. Inside a warehouse aisle, tall storage racks lose stability, showing how quickly an unanchored structure can change the entire work area. Tall storage structures hold immense weight near their top edges. Shifting unanchored frames can destroy their fragile balance instantly. Gravity takes control, pulling the towering mass downward with rapid speed. These heavy materials accelerate quickly, creating a severe collapse path in any narrow space below. Manual force cannot hold back a falling wall of stored material. Rack stability starts at the floor. Anchor tall frames, inspect the base, and keep narrow aisles clear during movement or adjustment. The warning sign is not always noise. Sometimes it is a slight shift in a heavy structure. At a crowded gas station, an SUV reverses toward an active fuel pump, and one wrong movement puts the whole area at risk. Reversing heavy vehicles into busy fueling areas can trigger an immediate chain reaction. A sudden rear contact can tear open fragile active dispensers and release a large cloud of fuel vapor. Metal scraping can create an ignition source that rapidly lights the vapor, turning the concrete area into a fast-spreading fire risk. Fueling areas demand slow movement, mirror checks, and full attention before reversing. Regard every pump as fragile equipment surrounded by ignition risk. A few extra seconds of scanning can protect the entire station from a chain reaction. In an industrial yard, a crane lowers a heavy load onto a truck, and one off-center move changes the vehicle's balance fast. Standing beneath suspended materials creates a closed-off load path. Vehicles require carefully centered weight to remain stable. When heavy objects land off-center, the sudden force can break the truck's equilibrium. The machine then levers over as gravity takes control in a rapid moment. The falling steel and shifting frame can close the space underneath before the load path can be cleared, turning the area below into an unsafe position. A heavy placement must be centered, planned, and guided from outside the load path. Use taglines, verify the balance point, and keep the truck's side clearance open. When the load is overhead, distance is the strongest protection. On a busy street, a dump truck rolls forward with its bed still raised, heading straight for a low brick archway. Driving machinery with elevated sections creates a moving collision setup. Overhead, architecture relies on strict height limits. When a raised steel bed hooks solid masonry, the truck's forward momentum can tear the structure apart. The vehicle's power releases heavy debris from above, dropping rigid material into the cabin area. The truck should not move until the bed is fully lowered and locked. Drivers need a final mirror check, height awareness, and a clear overhead route before rolling. The path above matters just as much as the road ahead. Near a parked truck, a moving forklift enters a blind travel path where visibility and timing become critical. Heavy equipment carries large blind spots where movement in the path may remain completely hidden. Stepping suddenly around parked vehicles into active lanes creates a severe travel path conflict. The steel machine holds forward momentum and cannot stop immediately. Once the blind lane is entered, available reaction time may not be enough to clear the path safely. Visibility must be confirmed before movement crosses any active equipment route. Blind corners need pauses, eye contact, and protected walkways. No one should enter an active travel lane without confirming the equipment has stopped or the operator has full awareness. At an extraction site, a worker stands on a loaded truck while an excavator swings nearby within a busy loading zone. Standing inside an active loading area turns a high ledge into an unsafe exposure point. Excavators move with heavy swing momentum, carrying tons of metal through the air. Limited visibility around the truck can leave positions on the cargo completely unseen. When a bucket sweeps across the path, its force can remove stable footing and push movement toward the edge. Loading areas must stay clear while the bucket is moving. Keep all access routes outside the swing radius, and never rely on the operator seeing every position around the truck. On a busy roadway, a transport truck turns across traffic while an approaching motorcycle closes the distance toward the trailer's path. Heavy transport vehicles turning across lanes can create a sudden moving wall. A long trailer can block the path completely, leaving very little room for oncoming traffic to adjust. Motorcycles traveling fast carry extreme forward momentum. When a massive truck shifts sideways to enter a gate, it can cut off the entire road instantly. The sudden barrier reduces available reaction time and turns a clear route into a rigid traffic conflict. Industrial entrances are high conflict points where large vehicles need extra space and time. Watch for wide turns early, reduce speed before the gap closes, and never assume a clear lane will stay clear. Inside a warehouse, an electric pallet lifter nudges a tall stack of glass bottles, and the unstable load begins to shift. Lifting towering cargo without confirming full stability can create a sudden load collapse. High stacks rely on a steady center of gravity and a firm base. Once a lifter shifts an unbalanced bottom layer, the heavy tiers can buckle quickly. The sudden tilt breaks the delicate equilibrium that kept the stack upright. Tall freight should be secured, tested, and moved slowly from a stable base. If the stack leans, separates, or flexes, stop before adding lift force. A load that looks vertical is not always balanced. On a factory floor, hot torch sparks land too close to a gas cylinder, creating an ignition risk in seconds. Hot tools throwing sparks can create a rapid ignition area. Tanks hold concentrated fuel that may escape through tiny valve leaks. When glowing metal meets unseen gas, a fast reaction can happen instantly. The container can push the expanding flame outward and expose the tight space around it. Heat can spread through the work area quickly, leaving nearby materials and open paths vulnerable to fire movement. Separate hot work from fuel storage before sparks begin. Move cylinders away, check valves, and scan the area for leaks or combustible materials. In a busy warehouse, a mobile platform, a heavy box, and poor footing combine into one unstable elevated task. Lifting massive loads on elevated structures creates an unpredictable balance problem. Manual balance relies on a wide stance and clear movement space. When bulky objects are carried up high, the center of gravity shifts drastically. A small misstep can break this fragile footing and pull the load path backward over the exposed edge. Once height and weight combine, stability can disappear before the movement can be corrected. Elevated work needs open hands, clear footing, and the right lifting method. Move bulky freight with mechanical support instead of carrying it near an exposed edge. In a restaurant kitchen, a worker interacts with a heavy machine cover that unexpectedly swings downward, followed by a loss of balance nearby. Heavy overhead panels require strong hinges and proper latches to remain safely lifted. Applying pressure to an unsecured metal lid lets gravity take over. The solid structure can drop rapidly, creating overhead contact and disrupting balance. After unexpected movement, a wet tile becomes an added slip risk because traction is already reduced. The lid, the floor, and the tight workspace all need control before service continues. Mechanical covers must be latched, supported, and inspected before service. On a quiet dirt road, a worker is standing near a blue tractor and trailer. Without warning, the heavy machine begins to roll forward and the situation quickly changes. Leaving an active vehicle unsecured creates an unpredictable movement path. Heavy machinery can build forward momentum from a small mechanical slip or a slight ground slope. When tons of steel roll unexpectedly, manual force cannot resist the rigid movement. The tire path can close against the earth with extreme pressure. A stopped machine is only safe when it is secured against movement. Shut it down, block the wheels, and confirm the ground will not let the weight roll. Outside a roadside shop, a sledgehammer swing misses the target, sending the tool's momentum into open space. Swinging massive manual tools creates a wide path of blind momentum. Sledgehammers carry extreme physical force meant for solid steel. When a powerful strike misses its target, the heavy head continues moving at full speed. Arms cannot instantly halt this rapid downward arc. The misplaced energy redirects straight into open space around the target. Anything standing too close receives the force before spacing can be corrected. Every hammer swing needs a clear radius around the target. Stand beyond the full arc, control the footing, and reset before each strike. The missed swing is the one that exposes poor spacing. At a construction site, a loader bucket is used as a platform. Then the machine rolls toward fresh brickwork. Riding inside heavy earth-moving attachments creates a highly unpredictable setup. Massive tires resting on rough dirt can shift easily and generate sudden forward momentum. When tons of rolling steel contact unhardened masonry, the fragile structure can break apart instantly. The contact force can throw the bucket area off balance and send loose bricks into motion. A loader bucket is not a work platform. Build the task around scaffolding, stable ground access, or approved lifting equipment. When walls are fresh and machines are mobile, improvisation removes the margin of safety. Inside a garage, a raised forklift carriage hangs on hydraulic pressure while repair work happens beneath it. Suspended hydraulics rely entirely on pressurized fluid to hold a massive weight in the air. When pressure drops unexpectedly, there is no backup catch. Gravity can pull the thick steel frame down at rapid speed. The solid metal delivers extreme compression force into the open space below. Reaction time cannot overcome falling steel components, which is why raised parts need physical support before hands-on work begins. Hydraulic pressure is not a safety support. Block raised components with rigid mechanical stands before inspection, repair, or adjustment. At a construction site, a hammer strike shakes a stacked bundle of wooden frames held together by tension straps. Tall bundles of heavy timber rely on tight bands for balance. Hitting solid wood sends strong vibrations through these tension straps. One sharp strike can snap the binding and release stored pressure through the stacked material. The wooden shapes can slide downward, breaking the center of gravity that kept the bundle controlled. Bundled materials can store more energy than they appear to hold. In a quiet room, a slanted aluminum ladder rests on a smooth floor, and the climb depends entirely on friction. Smooth indoor floors provide very little grip for slanted aluminum supports. Shifting weight upward creates heavy outward pressure at the base. When the feet lack solid friction, they can slide backward across the surface instantly. Gravity then takes control, pulling the structure away from its support point. This rapid loss of balance creates an uncontrolled descent, and the rigid aluminum can fall back into the climb path with severe contact force. Before climbing, lock the base against movement and confirm the top cannot slide. On a construction site, a truck-mounted crane takes on a steel load that pushes the machine past its balance point. Pushing heavy lifting equipment beyond its safe capacity can trigger an immediate loss of control. Machines rely on a strict balance point to stay grounded. When a load is too heavy, the center of gravity shifts dangerously toward the lift side. The pressure can pull stabilizing legs out of the earth and lift the vehicle off stable support. Every lift begins with the numbers, not with guesswork. Confirm the load weight compared with the crane chart and stop the job the moment the setup exceeds safe capacity. Below a crane lift, a suspended vehicle sways overhead, showing why every raised load needs a completely clear landing area. Suspended loads rely entirely on tension cables to hold extreme weight. If rigging fails, there is no backup support. Gravity takes control and pulls the load downward rapidly. A falling vehicle overwhelms the space beneath it, and manual guidance cannot stop that kind of moving weight. Guide the load from outside the fall path with taglines and clear boundaries. No lift should continue while anyone is beneath the suspended weight. Rigging may hold, but safety depends on planning for what happens if it does not. On a busy street, a forklift carries an oversized box too high, and the load starts pulling the machine off balance. Lifting machines rely on a precise center of gravity to remain stable. When cargo exceeds capacity, this fragile balance shifts toward the front wheels. Gravity can pull the front down quickly while lifting the rear axle into the air. This sudden loss of equilibrium drops suspended freight with high speed. Anything in the drop path faces severe compression pressure from the uncontrolled load movement. Oversized loads must stay low, within rated capacity, and separated from passing traffic. Check the weight before travel, control the route, and stop if the rear begins to lighten. Near an industrial container, hot liquid and steam surge upward, exposing why open vats demand distance, shields, and control. Industrial vats holding superheated fluids operate under extreme thermal stress. When an unexpected pressure shift occurs, boiling liquid can flash into expanding steam. This massive energy escapes the open top as a rapid thermal release. The hot mixture can spread across the surrounding space with intense heat and steam movement. Nearby areas become exposed to severe thermal conditions before safe clearance can be created. Hot liquid systems need barriers, distance, and constant temperature monitoring. Keep the edge clear, shield open vessels, and control pressure changes before they become a release. Heat becomes motion the moment containment fails. In a narrow alley, a worker stands beside a truck door as the vehicle begins to move unexpectedly in a tight space. Parking heavy vehicles in tight spaces creates a fast closing clearance problem. When a driver reverses unexpectedly, open doors can act like solid steel walls. The tiny gap between the moving machine and the rigid boundary can vanish instantly. Manual force cannot resist sudden vehicle movement or the pressure created by a shrinking space. Once the gap begins to close, no safe clearance remains between the truck and the fixed barrier. Tight spaces require full vehicle control before doors, latches, or side panels are handled. Chock the wheels, remove the keys, and keep the pinch point empty during any movement. To keep learning from these important workplace safety lessons, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Stay aware, stay safe.